Celebrity, true or false?
You can't handle the truth.
There you go. That's our production value, Michael McKean. That's our production value. Celebrity, true or false?
Well, what is the actual value of that production?
It makes me enjoy it. It brings a smile to my face, to be very honest
No,
with
I
you.
meant money. I'm talking money.
I think it pays
million
for
dollars.
it pays for itself, Michael. You know what I mean?
Brilliant.
That's what. Thank
Well
you.
said.
I appreciate that. All right, first item up for bids. You and David Lander were originally hired as writers on Laverne and Shirley, and wrote yourself into the show as Lenny and Squiggy, two characters you created while in college. True or false?
That's true.
That is true.
I would have to add one name,
Please.
Harry Shearer, who was with David and myself a member of a group called the Credibility Gap, which was a satirical group here, L.A. radio, and we made some albums, went out on the road in clubs and concerts, etc. And we were known as the Credibility Gap at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Penny Marshall and Rob Reiner were big fans of these characters that we would do. Just kind of, they were in the act kind of toward the end, in the Credibility Gap act toward the end. But mainly we just did them because these two idiots entertained our friends, who are also idiots. And so but Penny and Cindy sold this show. Gary Marshall, who co-created the show with Lowell Gans and Mark Rothman, they got a go on this show that they had done, not a pilot, but what you call a presentation film for, showing some of their stuff from their two appearances on Happy Days, Girls. And so, bingo, we got a sale, and Penny said, you guys should come to this party we're having, and maybe you can do those guys. Okay. So David and I went to this party at Penny's house, Penny and Rob's house, when they were married. And Lowell Gans was there, and Mark Rothman and some other producers of the show. And we, at one point, Rob said to us, do the guys. And David and I went into a piece that we had never done before, never even thought of before, and we never did after that, where the guys discussed going to butler school to become valets. And it was pretty funny, as I recall, because everybody was laughing, but I couldn't tell you a thing about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
So
you
that's
wrote
kinda how
yourself.
that happened.
And then you wrote yourself into the show, and then off you go.
Well, Penny always had an eye toward maybe we can write these guys in.
Yeah.
Because they're funny kind of 50s characters. So it was not something we just volunteered. It was like Gary thought the characters were funny. Everybody thought the characters were funny. We wrote them in.
All right, and then
so we wrote them into the first episode and everyone after that.
And then so the next item here on Celebrity True or False with you, Michael McKean, is that those characters were so popular, you released a 1979 album called Lenny in the Squigtones, which featured a young guitarist credited as Nigel Tufnell, Christopher Guest. And that was the name that he used, obviously, in Spinal Tap. Is that true?
Well, that was his English rocker name. He had done a version of that kind of character since I've known him, which was the late 60s, is when Chris and I met at NYU and started writing songs together and stuff and just being silly.
So why?
And
let me ask you a question about Christopher Guest, who's his movies are spectacular, and you in them as well. Were you in Waiting for Guffman, or you were not in Waiting for Guffman?
No,
What happened?
The original plan was for Chris and I to work on this. The Guffman idea was something that he wanted to do. It was inspired by a documentary he had seen about a small city with an opera house and a guy who was just dying to get on stage and be a spirit carrier at the opera. That was the initial thing. And then it kind of expanded, and his notion was to make it a small town doing their, some kind of celebration, and this historical play that this guy's putting on, built around this character that Chris loved to do, this, flamboyant, very self-involved, guy who's just dying to get to Broadway, which was such an amazing, such a sweet character. So originally I was going to work on it, and then I was doing SNL, and then I was doing the Brady Bunch movie, and that was the chunk of time that he had kind of set apart. And so instead, he got in touch with Eugene, which was an awfully good idea.
Yes.
And he didn't know Eugene. He was just a fan of his work on SCTV, et cetera. And so, they got together, and Gene showed up at Chris's cabin up in the woods, and they worked on this idea, and they hatched it into a brilliant movie. So all worked out.
That's how he met Eugene Levy to get into all of this. So who's the one on all of these films? Because much of it was, I imagine, ad-libbed. Who was the one that would crack everybody up the most, or easiest to crack up the most?
Oh,
Michael.
The most difficult to work with. Well, first of all, all the dialogue in Chris's stuff is improvised, as it was in This Is Spinal Tap, the film that Rob Reiner directed.
Yes.
That was kind of the model for this kind of work. And a lot of times, I'd have to say Fred Willard, Jennifer Coolidge, Higgins. Higgins was hard to. It was so brilliantly funny, but he was only hard to work with because he was so smart and fast. And it wasn't like I was in danger of breaking up. I was in danger of going, excuse me, can I say that on the radio? Maybe not.
Well, it's okay. You were breaking up on your phone. That's perfect time. So which one was the easiest to crack up? Who was the one that was simple, that would just break? Anybody?
I broke Chris a couple of times.
You did.
Which was
That's it.
Edifying.
Edifying is a great word for it.
Yeah, and Ricky Gervais, when he was in For Your Consideration, and I had one little piece with him, and I had a feeling about him that he was ready to fall on the floor at all times.
I love that.
But he didn't. Yeah. No, but he loved being on the show so much, and such, we loved him so much, and it was really fun.
All right, I've got two more for you, Michael McKean.
Okay.
Here you go. First one, you just mentioned Rob Reiner. Is it true or false that he was going to originally be a Spinal Tap band member, but became the director because he didn't look good in spandex? True or false?
No.
That's false?
Not true.
That's false.
No. It was of course. Although now I'm thinking about Rob Reiner and spandex. Thanks very much.
My apologies then. Okay. Then that's why we ask you this, to make sure it's these things we read are true or false. Last one for you. You were asked to join the original cast of Breaking Bad, but because of conflicting stage commitments, you could not do it. Is that true or false?
All I can say is that there was a casting thing that Vince directed, called me directly about.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, there's a part we'd like you to do on this, and I couldn't because I was on my way to New York to do a play. So that's all of that. I'm not going to talk about what part it was, because then it becomes fan stuff, and it's like, it's better you guys to just kind of
guess. Which one would it be? Would it be?
No.
You won't even twitch in the direction if I guess which one it would be. Michael?
It was not Salamanca. That's all I'm saying.
It's not Salamanca. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.